Hello everybody, and Sam from Astrology, and we're going to talk about the new moon coming up in Sagittarius on the 20th of this month, just before Christmas. And I'd just like to further announce that I will be releasing my Year of the Horse Talk 2 for 2026, which actually falls on the eclipse. For those who didn't catch the article on that, I've done that on my Substack channel. And I will be doing my annual Year of the Horse live, and the dates of birth times are coming in hard and fast, and I have quite a few actually to get through already. So some people have been direct messaging me in regards to that. And so for those who really want to get on board with that, you can jump in on you can just write in the comment below if you're comfortable leaving your date of birth and time on the comments below, or you can DM me, and it's probably best to DM me via my website, email, or Instagram, or on Substack. So I just wanted to announce that before we kick off, because it's going to be a pretty big new year coming up as usual. But I think the one when it falls on the Year of the Horse actually falls on right on the eclipse, the 17th, so it's going to be interesting. So for those who want to have a quick browse of what's coming, you can just read my article on that. And of course I'll probably do a video separately on the eclipse coming up in Aquarius, which we can already see the patterns coming in the collective, and it's interesting to see what is coming up. But so I just want to have a talk about this moon, and I'll probably briefly just quickly go through the signs, the 12 rising signs as well. But we have a new moon in Sagittarius, so I think just before this falls into into obviously before Christmas and the Lunar New Year coming up, it's good to mull over what your new intentions and plans and goals are for the new year, because obviously new moons are really important. Some people do a few little rituals around it, and to see what is actually can potentially come up and what you want to plan for the next 6 months for when the new moon falls into the full moon in Sagittarius in 6 months. And the cool thing about new moons actually is that if you're really applying it, so if you've got a moon diary, or you set your intentions around this kind of thing, you can actually really see how things do manifest with the up and coming next full moon. And I think that's a really cool exercise to do, especially if you are just really especially if you're into self-development and looking at yourself, and you want to really, really study charts, because to bring astrology alive particularly, we need to understand how aspects play out, not just written down in textbooks, but obviously how they play out a role in our lives, and it makes it a lot more tangible to see what's going on. So obviously pay attention to where Sagittarius is in your birth natal chart. And Sagittarius moons generally feel very comfortable exploring, traveling, being outdoors, and they also really love freedom, space, and expanding their horizons. So the moon in astrology is obviously connected to how we react on a deep instinctual level as well as emotionally. So when the moon is actually in Sagittarius, or people who have birth placements with the Sag moon usually react to things enthusiastically and idealistically based on philosophical beliefs, right? So, and this new moon will definitely stimulate a subconscious predisposition to question and search for meaning, right? Because Sag is all about the philosophy, the bigger picture. The archer's usually firing the arrow to the center of the universe, and this is just how it plays out with Sagittarius, right? So, as usual, I think I always look into obviously the tarot, right? Because I'm a bit of a tarot freak at the moment, and I've just really been exploring a lot of decks, and a lot of my colleagues practice tarot, and It's great, and I've just been really getting into it more, particularly in its connection to astrology. But I always look at the decans. The decans are really important. And of course, this new moon falls into the decan of Sagittarius, which is ruled by the planet Saturn. So, so this new moon actually, in an aspect, it's actually squaring the planet Saturn, but I'll talk about aspects in a second. But of course, so this new moon, if heavily aspected by Saturn in a square, which is challenging us to really ground our roots when it comes to freedom, right? This new moon is suggesting that we need to be determined, dependable, and enforce a strong will to overcome burdens, right? Because for those who are very familiar with tarot, and a lot of people are, the Ten of Wands card is connected to Saturn in the sign of Sagittarius, and it has a lot to do with burdens, responsibilities, mental exhaustions, fatigues, obligations, and problems. You know, it can be job burnout, and it's just a time in a way where we can take on a lot of responsibilities, which is connected to that planet Saturn. And then Saturn in connection to Sagittarius Sagittarius likes freedom and movement and exploring, and Saturn can inhibit and restrict this, right? So I think with this moon, it's the number 10s connect in the tarot, really connect to persistence, conservatism, and self-will. So when it comes to setting goals and new intentions, don't be afraid to set them high. So the Sagittarius 10 of Wands is a card geared up for large undertakings, major enterprises, and heavy responsibilities. So I think the key thing with this new moon is when we're setting our intentions and goals, we've got to remember that Saturn governs time, and persistence is the key. And so rewards will come only when honest time has been invested, right? Saturn only rewards those who actually do the honest time and are living autonomously. So the Archer, or the Sagittarius glyph, is firing that arrow to the center of the universe, indicating that don't be afraid to set your goals way above the mark, right? So the Sagittarius vision is very expansive and grand, right? Really optimistic. Okay, I want to reach this. Even if you've got far-fetched ideas, and just a word, and I've fallen into this trap before, but any of your own ideas or your goals, actually really just keep them to yourself. I think it really, until you've actually manifested it yourself and completed something, then of course announce it to the world. But I think it's a good idea just to keep them within yourself, because I think it just harnesses the energy of it more. And it plays out a lot better and favorably in the long run. But okay, so Sagittarius is ruled by the planet Jupiter, so we need to pay attention where Jupiter is in our charts. And this is always important, right? Because currently, right, Jupiter's in Cancer and the moon's in Sagittarius. So there's a mutual reception going on here, right, between the planets. And Jupiter's currently in retrograde, right? So there's going to be a revisiting or re-going over wherever the moon is placed, or wherever Jupiter is placed is going to be in connection with the moon, because they're going to be both receiving each other at the moment. And so when Jupiter's retrograde, actually, it's a time that we need to examine our inner beliefs. So it's going to be a time, this new moon coming up is reviewing our inner beliefs to help expand our emotions. So there's quite a few aspects to this new moon, right? We have Venus, we have Juno. For those who don't know Juno is an asteroid. And in connection with the moon, right, it can be related to principles that combine with emotional responsiveness. The combination indicates a fulfillment of one's emotions, needs, is always linked to having meaningful relationships, right? Because Juno is the goddess of marriage and was revered by the Greeks for her beauty and fidelity, right? So there's a strong connection to real commitment when it comes to things and relationships. So I'll just throw that in there because most people probably don't know about the asteroid Juno, but I don't tend to use asteroids so much. But I think when things are really in conjunction and certain angles in astrology, and of course in conjunction with planets, it's really important to pay attention. So we have the aspect of Venus, Juno, and Mars in conjunction with this moon. It's going to be in square with Saturn and Neptune, and it's in trine with Chiron, and it's in conjunct to Uranus. And this in conjunction to Uranus for this moon is actually in an exact degree. And so I think in the long run, inconjunct energies are probably the most difficult because of the angle, and we really pay attention to the inconjunct a lot in medical astrology. But I think this can put a bit of stress on the emotional body as well. So for the sake of what I'm going to talk about here, I'm not going to cover all the aspects when I go through the 12 rising signs. I'll probably focus more on the Jupiter retrograding because that's significant in connection with the moon. And then, of course, the squaring Saturn is always critical to pay attention to. Now, I think because the moon's in a late degree of 28 degrees, that depending on what the house system it is you use, so over the years I've kind of chopped and changes, but recently I've done a lot of astro charts in whole signs, but traditionally I use Placidus as well. So, but majority of the time I do use whole signs. But for those who do use Placidus, then this moon's at 28 degrees, so it's probably going to fall into, I would read both houses, because the moon's going to be close to the cusp of something, particularly if one of your house cusps is at 28 degrees, it's going to fall into both houses. So for those who, I'm just getting a little bit anal about astrological detail here, but for those who do know their charts, you just want to pay attention to that, because this new moon will probably cover both of those houses. You will really want to look into that. And for those who aren't sure, obviously, about those kind of things, then just get a professional chart reading. And that always helps as well, which I recommend too, by the way. It's always good to get anything, right? I'm a practitioner of Chinese medicine, so when you need, when you get a professional consultation or reading, then it cuts out a lot of the fluff and it just makes things easier for yourself. But anyway, I digress, and I will get right into the 12 rising signs. So for Aries rising, we'll have the new moon in the 9th house. This is a house of higher learning, travel, philosophy, foreign lands, and cultures. A really explorative type house into developing the mind. And I would set new intentions. Setting new intentions around these areas, obviously you can set all your intentions around what I've just mentioned there. But Jupiter retrograding in the 4th house can bring up some issues to do with the home environment or reassessing where I want to live, right? Because you've got Jupiter transiting your 4th house. So issues about where I want to live is going to come up, because the 4th house is all to do with home and ancestry and things like this. But and particularly having Jupiter retrograding in that house too, right? Jupiter going through the 4th house, sometimes a lot of people want to have a lot of land around them, a lot of space when it comes to the home environment, and you may feel like you really need that, particularly with the retrograding going on. You might be reassessing where you live and thinking, okay, well, I want to move into a place where I've got more space, such as the country where I am at the moment. And so really, really good for that kind of thing. There could be changes to do with the beliefs around the home and ancestral heritage, right? Now, the square to Saturn in the 12th house can be a challenge to discipline having faith in ourselves and faith in handling our spiritual life, right? because Saturn in that house, Saturn actually sits kind of well in the 12th, because Saturn is a kind of lonely type house and likes confinement, which it represents. But it can also mean, though, having Saturn there, a steady digging into the unconscious to unravel what is hidden and what needs to be disciplined, which rules Saturn, to be healed, right? So you may have intentions around this new moon come up around these kind of issues about healing the unconscious as well, and creating a disciplinary program to really get into that. And also, this new moon for you guys is going to be trine Chiron in the first. As I'm just going to mention Chiron here because this is significant, because it's indicating self-healing is needed to help manifest your goals for this new moon. So we've got Taurus rising will be having this new moon in the 8th house. One of the deeper houses, the house of the psyche. It is the house of occult knowledge, hidden knowledge, and the house of inheritances, death, wills, taxes, joint resources. So it's a good time to set new intentions around paying off debts and loans. A time to reassess joint finances. A time to reassess joint resources and financial ties with others. Jupiter retrograding in the 3rd house can indicate reconnecting and reassessing communications with siblings. Saturn is squaring this new moon in the 11th house, the house of groups and social networks, right? So boundaries can be tested, right? With the challenge there, with Saturn squaring this new moon, boundaries are tested with friends in regards to who you let in, an emotional level. And level of expressing your deep inner needs and self to others as well. If not feeling supported with friends and allies at this time, it's time to let them go, right? You may feel the need, you've outgrown certain groups. And Saturn in the 11th can demand you want serious connections, indicating socializing, and also seeking advice from elderly people as well with this kind of, and some people at this time might be seeking advice from elderly people to do with the finances. Some people have been in the game a long time, and you want to get a level of connecting or socializing with people or networking with elderly people who've actually been really done their time when it comes to investments and things, and you want to get advice from this. So this could be I think this time is really important to really pay attention to paying off your debts and loans, set those kind of goals, and then managing your resources and connecting with people who've been in the game a long time to help assist with that. Gemini rising will be having this new moon in the 7th house, the house of partnerships, and that can be professional and intimate. There can be it can be a new partner, as in romantic. So if you're single, you can set intentions around trying to meet someone. It can also be working with professionals, right, as in therapists, astrologers, or a new boss or a manager. It can indicate, and the 7th house also rules of selling in the market, so products and things like this. It does relate to the marketplace. But this new moon's tied to a retrograding 2nd house, the house of values, self-worth, and personal resources. So there can be thoughts and reevaluation around self-esteem, financial resources, as well as give and take in relationships. As in, the question comes up, are your needs being met? This is a good time to set intentions around the relationship goals, how you value yourself in connection to personal in connections to personal and professional relationships. The moon is squaring Saturn in your 10th house, indicating having burdens at work or possibly chipping away at a project that is taking time and concentrated effort. That challenges your emotions, so to speak. So work can be the daily grind, and with Neptune squaring in square as well can be confusing, right? Because I've got to remember too, and I'm mainly talking about Saturn, but Saturn in conjunction at the moment is in conjunction with Neptune. That generally is one of the free-floating anxiety aspects that can give us this, kind of nebulous feeling of anxiety. So as your 7th house is jam-packed with personal planets as well, right? Because a lot of these planets around this new moon, there's going to be a lot of the personal planets are really in each house, but this one in particular, which means there'll be people around you to help assist you reach your goals. So Cancer rising will be having this new moon in the 6th house, the house of health, service, pets, employment, and daily routines. Being ruled by the moon, right? This new moon's Cancer risings, the moon's really important. So pay attention to, obviously, new moons, full moons, and lunar eclipses, right? Because the moon's the lord of your chart. You guys are holding the archetype of the caretaker, and you really want to pay attention to what the moon is doing. So it's a good time for you guys at the moment to set intentions around goals focusing on health, finding employment, and thinking about what you need to change on a day-to-day basis. Jupiter retrograde in your 1st house can show fluctuations and changes with work routines as well as your physical body. So the 1st house does rule the body, so you guys can be really feeling it. And of course, Jupiter going through the 1st house too, there can be fluctuations in weight, or the weight can really come on because Jupiter can expand the waistline a little. Saturn in the 9th is squaring the moon, so there can be delays or feelings of restrictions around work routines and health. Work can impact education as you want to study or you are studying, but work burdens are getting in the way of what you wanting to expand your horizons. And also it can impact the urge to travel as well as pets can be a little bit restrictive as well with Saturn squaring the 9th from the moon, which can restrict your freedom, so to speak, if you want to branch out and do things. Leo rising will be having this new moon in the 5th house. The sun is the lord of your chart, so it's important for the Leo rising as well. The reason I'm saying this, obviously this is a new moon, but obviously the new moons are in conjunction with the sun, right? So this is the house of play, romance, risks, performing arts, and children. For those wanting to conceive at this time, it's good to set intentions around this if you want to start a family, because the 5th house is all about children and conception. As Jupiter retrogrades your 12th house, this can draw in creative inspiration through meditation and spending time alone. The 12th house is the house of hidden, so hidden talents can emerge at this time, or you're working on a creative project behind the scenes. So Saturn in the 8th can indicate karmic romantic situations, blocks when it comes to intimacy, feeling vulnerable, joining resources and taking risks when it comes to relationships. Saturn in the 8th too can tend to have avoidant issues as well, especially when it's squaring the moon like this. And creativity at this time will help heal the heart space, especially inner child work, right? And there can be a creative a creative breakthrough at the moment when it kind of comes to work, because that in conjunction, right, is hidden Uranus in your 10th house. So there can be something surprising or that could happen. You could get some breakthrough, right? Because Uranus does rule this. And because you've got that in your 10th house, the house of career. Virgo rising will be having this new moon in the 4th house, the house of family, home, and ancestral roots. So new moons in the 4th can indicate you want to move, or you want to renovate or redecorate and set new intentions around family and home. Jupiter in the 11th can indicate that if you are planning to move, it will be connected to social networks in some way. It could also mean moving back and seeing friends if you have not seen them for a while, for a celebration or a party of some kind, right? You may decide to do a lot of entertaining at home. And the square to Saturn in the 7th house can cause friction between you or your partner when it comes to making decisions around the home. You can have conflicting views, where you may feel like you're placed, or you're feeling restricted around this. So the challenges with Saturn in the 7th can also mean that you're wanting to move in with your partner, but there could also be obstacles and restrictions around this. Libra rising will be having this new moon in the 3rd house, the house of communication, siblings, short journeys, cars, leases, and short courses. So Jupiter in the 10th, the house of career and work, will show that you may need to travel to work, for work, or you may be writing, teaching, and publishing. These can all be 3rd house type things, so it's good to set intentions around these kind of things. This new moon's about expanding your mind and expanding your career. You may need to learn and study more to be able to level up with what's going on in your career. The Saturn squaring this new moon in your 6th house may indicate some health challenges that are going on, or you're possibly finding daily work routines become a chore and a burden of some kind. They can be quite monotonous, and when it comes to that, it can also indicate with all the ideas you're coming up with, you will find that it's time. You may be coming up with a lot of ideas when it comes to work or things like this, right? But it might be hard to fit it in with all the daily routines you got going on, because they can be quite restrictive with Saturn in the 6th. So you may need to delegate your tasks if you want to expand and level up. So under this new moon, I would set I would set your intentions around management skills, time management skills, so to speak. Definitely, because Saturn governs time. Scorpio rising will be having this new moon in your 2nd house, the house of resources, finances, and self-value. This is a good time to set intentions around money, manifestations. Where do you want to be in 6 months with the full moon in Sagittarius when it comes to your financial situation? If you've not been valuing yourself, now's a good time to learn and appreciate the virtue of selfishness, and set new intentions around this to understand. Invest in yourself, self-value, self-esteem. Jupiter's transiting your 11th house, so with this moon there will be a link between your personal philosophies and beliefs. What can you believe can change what can you believe you can change in terms of your self-esteem and financial resources at this point in time? So you may set intentions around to invest in higher education or travel at this time. With Saturn squaring your moon in the 5th, it can be challenging you to become creative and take risks with investments and being creative as well. So take a risk on being creative or doing a creative hobby with Saturn in the 6th, or those hobbies can indicate putting adequate time in and good time management when it comes to spending time with yourself in creating yourself, so to speak, with the Saturn squaring there in the 5th house. So with Sagittarius rising, this is going to be your moon in the 1st house. So this is the house of yourself, right? It's you, identity, new beginnings, body, and immediate environment. The question with this new moon will be, what do I want to do, right? So what do you guys want to do to really set new intentions around yourself? Do you want to do a new exercise routine? Do you want to really change the shapes of your body? This kind of thing. With Jupiter in the 8th house connected to this new moon will indicate, what do I need to transform about myself to get what I want? Right? Because the 8th house, with the 8th house connection, it will be to do with what do I need to change on a transformative level to get what I want, and what have I been afraid to change about myself, right? The 8th house can really draw on this, the significant changes on the inner levels, the inner dynamics, right? So it's probably a good time to do a bit of psychological homework in what do I want to change about my, psychological patterns, so to speak. There is potential to completely transform your physical appearance in 6 months with this full moon in Sag. So if you guys, your body's not in good nick or good shape, then set new intentions and see where you're at in 6 months with the next Sagittarius full moon. Saturn is squaring your moon from the 4th. This can indicate dealing with family karma. Issues and difficulties with family may challenge you to change something about yourself. So you may have to set boundaries with people from within your family lineage at this time. Capricorn rising will be having this new moon in the 12th house, the house of rest, serenity, mystery, spirituality, retreat, sleep, dreams, and the collective unconscious. So Jupiter's retrograding in your 7th house, the house of the house of relationships. So there can be karmic ties and resolutions that will play out during this retrograde in the 7th, as you may find something out about your partner, right, you did not know. Retrogrades through the 7th can bring people back from the past, obviously, or can reveal secrets as well. So we'll see how that plays out for you guys. But issues from the past maybe been dealing with your partner may resurface, right? So maybe some issues that have been going on that have been swept under the rug a bit, when the retrograding Jupiter going through the 7th can really bring it out again. So this new moon square your chart ruler, because you're ruled by Saturn in your 3rd house, the house of communication, and hidden emotions can affect growth at this time with this Saturn square. So I would be paying attention to dreams. Dreams are always important, and anything in connection with the 12th house, right, you're going to get messages and downloads potentially. So something will be coming you do not see. I would say with the 12th house does rule the house of hidden enemies. But a lot of the time, right, this is more medieval astrology when they talk about hidden enemies. But the hidden enemies are a lot to do with our own unconscious that we're just not aware of. Or certain things that we repress, and then they come back within our psyches to play out in some way, as usually confronted as fate or something like this, right? So we need to pay attention, right, to our intuitive wisdom, our dreams, because there could be messages received at this time. And messages around relationships can be communicated through our unconscious. So we may pick up some intuitive signals to do with how to deal with our relationships due to that Jupiter retrograde through the 7th house. Aquarius rising will be having this new moon in the 11th house, the house of wish fulfillment, social networks, dreams and goals. So it'll probably be busy for you guys, busy socially anyway, because obviously there's always the personal planets are all jam-packed in there as well at this point in time. Jupiter's retrograde in your 6th house, the house of health, service, employments, work routines and pets. So you may be networking to try and find a new job, or you will be able to maintain, or you might network to try and find new jobs, but you could have health issues going on, which will challenge you maybe to, can you maintain your health habits while you're still socializing? So you may want to set new intentions around people who are busy and productive in order to help you expand your networks and employment opportunities as well, because the 6th house, remember, is a lot to do with employment, and I say Jupiter going through there is potentially a good time to want to expand, and the retrograde may be forcing you to revisit something around that kind of thing. Maybe you might go back to, some people do go back to jobs that they previously had before in those times. But Saturn, your traditional ruler, is the traditional ruler of Aquarius as well. So that's the lord of your chart, and that's squaring the second house. So you guys might find the purse strings a little bit tight at the moment, because usually when Saturn's transiting the second, it's a time for budgeting, and you don't have the financial resources, or you may have them, but they're restricted in some way, like your money may be tied up in other things. But with Uranus, the co-ruler of your ascendant, is in conjunct in the fourth house, which could be probing you to make changes around the home, or could also force you to get out and socialize. But I notice when a lot of the times when Uranus is, particularly in solar returns and things like this, that people can make moves through a lot of anxiety they feel around the home environment, or they feel like that angst to get them out and change and move. So it'd be interesting to see how this one plays out for you guys. So we have the Pisces rising. We'll be having your new moon in the 10th house, the house of career, public images, and work and status. So setting new intentions around your career goals and finding the job of your dreams is possible with hard work, right? From the square to the planet Saturn in the first house. And Saturn obviously is in conjunction with Neptune in that first house. So I would say to you guys that there can be a lot of free-floating kind of anxiety about your career and finding it difficult in terms of career direction, because sometimes when Saturn's there, you can create a little bit of confusion, right? But it can definitely affect the body, and usually with Neptune in that first house, you can be prone to picking up atmospheric type energies that can give you anxiety as well, particularly in conjunction with the planet Saturn. So just be mindful of that. If that's the case, treatments are really good to help balance all that out. It can also lead to heavy responsibilities at work, with demanding schedules, right? With the Saturn squaring the moon. So Jupiter rules your chart, because you guys are a Pisces rising, which is ruled by Jupiter. And it is currently transiting your fifth house. So this can make you reevaluate what makes you happy in career, right? Am I taking the risks in my creative expression that I can put out there that will bring me success at this point in time? So where can I be more optimistic and love what I am doing, right? Over the next 6 months, have faith in what you are building in terms of your career. This is what I would say. And Jupiter, the Lord of your chart, rules faith. So it's really important to have faith at this time for you guys. So no matter how heavy the responsibilities are, have faith in yourself to achieve your goals. So that is it, guys, for that. This is my little take on the new moon in Sagittarius coming up. So like I said in the beginning, my Year of the Horse video will be up very shortly, and for those interested, shoot me dates of birth and times, and I will go through and see what's coming up from your 4 pillars Chinese astrological Bazi chart for 2026. We'll be in touch soon.